I'm Liz Fisher. I'm a professional dog trainer and separation anxiety specialist, and this is my journey training my own dog who has separation anxiety. When I adopted Gracie, I already knew that she had to be the only dog in the house and that she didn't like being alone. I didn't know for sure if it was separation anxiety, but I just knew that I was working from home pretty much entirely and I could suspend absences. So I was pretty comfortable taking her on, even though I knew that if I ever left her, she might rip down my shades like she did in another house, or get up on the counter and eat everything on there. So I was pretty prepared, being a separation anxiety trainer and getting a dog with possible separation anxiety. I got her from Pity Posse Rescue in Maine, who I love very much. They are awesome to work with. And I always thought that I would actually rescue something other than a bully breed. I don't know why, but I always did. But I now am totally in love with pitties and bullies in a way that I always have been. I love working with bullies in work, but this has been a lovely experience. I totally get the pity bully love that a lot of people have. She's very sweet, incredibly snuggly. She actually sleeps in my bed every day. So I I have really enjoyed the process of falling in love with a pitty. I did initially only plan to have her for kind of an emergency foster. I was like, oh, this will be a couple of weeks. And then, of course, I foster failed. The first dog that I actually fostered, I foster failed. But Gracie is a big part of my life and a big part of our household. So when starting separation anxiety training, what I tell all of my clients is the first thing you have to do is suspend absences, which means never leaving your dog alone longer than they can handle. And handle can be different things. But basically, if they are feeling stress, anxiety, or panic, then they can't be left alone for that long. It might be 2 seconds, it might be 20 minutes, it kind of depends on the dog. With Gracie and some other dogs, there is a particular harder part of this, which is she doesn't only have an attachment to people in general, so it's not like I can go drop her off at a sitter's or anything, or even with my partner, who she loves very, very much. She has hyper attachment to me, specifically, one person. So I can only leave for limited amounts of time before she has panic, even with my partner present. That makes things tricky, but still feasible. At first, it was a matter of making my partner that much more of a comfortable person to be around, just like lots of treats coming from him and lots of nice things happening for Gracie around him. But there's still some things that we don't have figured out, in that I can only leave for 2 hours maximum, and that is absolutely maximum with event medication on board. And I'll talk about medication in a different vlog. Today we're just starting with beginning training at all, whether there's medication or not. So just training on its own. So with Gracie, luckily I am a separation anxiety trainer, which means that 1, I know all of the signs to look out for. 2, I work from home. All of my work with clients is pretty much over video. Because when you leave a dog alone, they are alone. So I'm watching dogs when they are by themselves. That means that I can pretty much be with her. She's in the other room right now all the time. With just limited having to leave her when I go to the doctor or something along those lines. So we have been suspending absences since we got her. We literally haven't left her alone at all. When we start separation training, so you've got your plan for suspending absences in order, that's all good, but then you have to do an initial assessment. especially because I haven't actually left her alone. I have no idea how long she can actually handle alone. So this was a little bit emotional for both me and my partner. We were a little bit nervous. We weren't sure how quickly it would happen. And I had already had to go in the basement earlier in the day where she's not allowed. So she may already have been a little bit kind of amped. So we didn't think that this would last any time at all. So I got 3 different devices set up with cameras. So I got a tablet and I have 2 laptops. And I set them all up in different places so that I could watch the whole house. But in particular, I put the main laptop with the best kind of view, best camera, on the front door. Because that's where I expect most of the big behavior to happen, and maybe all of it. In Gracie's case, all of it happened at the front door. She didn't go anywhere else in the house because she was super focused on the door where we left from. I also recorded everything, so I have a paid version of Zoom, so I just clicked record on that. All of the devices plus my phone, which I was carrying, were all hooked up to the same Zoom meeting, and the computer that was facing the door recorded it for me. Then I left and I watched. So I was watching what she did when we left. We are trying to figure out how long until she shows off any behaviors that are concerning. A lot of times I try to push this into not just alert and aware, but into actual nervousness. This is the only time that I push a dog quite like this. I might encourage, I might wait until a dog shows off something that is more obviously concern. If they're just standing and looking, that's actually technically neutral, but if they're standing and looking and hard staring with their weight forward, that's a little bit more concerning. They're a little bit more amped. So I was comfortable just in my work with lots of dogs, letting this kind of play out. And what happened was she went a whole 12 minutes, which I was not expecting at all. I was really expecting it to be a minute at most. When I left, she stood at the door, she stared out the window, and at about 1 minute and 22 seconds, she lifted up one paw very gently and just touched the window, and then slowly put her paw back down. It was the most gentle, kind of anxious behavior I've seen in a long time. I have watched many, many dogs with separation issues, and they will scratch at doors or chew on things and immediately start pulling things off of shelves. Not all of them. I have seen the dog who just kind of quietly paces and pants and is clearly stressed, but not doing anything outwardly big. But I'm not sure that I have actually seen a dog do a gentle stress behavior quite like that, where it is a scratch, but it's so soft. And that was 1 minute and 22 seconds. And then a little bit later, she kind of stepped her paws in place. And then she moved to, we have 2 windows by our door. She moved to the other window. And that's around 2 minutes and 43 seconds was the second time that she lifted a paw and very gently just put it on the door. And it took a little while after that before she started to show more signs. So she kind of walked between the windows. Every now and then she would lift a paw and just touch the window. She started around 10 minutes to do these really deep nose breaths. So she was actually going, which some dogs might just do that even as a sigh when they're kind of bored and relaxing. But in this case, it felt much more, her walking was much more stiff while she did it. So I think it was much more of an anxious behavior for her. And then 11 minutes and 48 seconds, she actually did her first vocalization. She did a low hum whine, and she turned and came into the dining room and then circled back right to the window again. She did whine a second time, very, very quietly, but the first whine was kind of long, and it was prolonged. So I actually came back right then. I didn't feel like I needed to push her further because it was the first time she had been alone. And then I was back inside by about 12 minutes, 9 seconds. To kind of go over what I just did, I just broke down what I saw. I took a lot more notes than that because I am incredibly detail-oriented to catch every behavior I can when a dog's alone, but those are kind of the highlights. After the initial assessment was over, I re-watched the recording, and that's when I took my notes and timed. And I was I'm very meticulous and careful about when things happened and exactly what happened. Even if it seems like it doesn't matter, I took a couple of notes when her ears kind of flicked. I also noted if I heard anything in the background when she would ear flick. So one time she ear flicked and it was a motorcycle, or I heard a motorcycle at the same time. Another time she ear flicked and I didn't hear anything, so we'll see down the road if that's important for her or not. For Gracie's first week of training, I'm probably going to work under the 2-minute 43-second mark, where she did her second paw on the window and slowly walked to the other window. And my reasoning is that this is the time when she repeated that paw movement, and her walk, her movement was significantly more stiff than it was before. I think it's possible, and we'll see what happens as we go through the practice this week. It's possible I'll end up working under that minute 22 seconds. I'll now kind of find that out by the second or third practice session this week. Because if she can't handle it, she'll show us, and then I'll work under what she can actually handle. But yeah, my plan right now is 2 minutes and 43 seconds is her maximum time to work under. Even though she went 12 minutes until she showed off her bigger signs of stress, she wasn't comfortable that whole time. So I am going to consider the paw and the slow walk more serious. And then next week, if she does even better, great, or does about the same, then I'll push harder. I'll do longer amounts of time. I want to acknowledge that I am a positive reinforcement trainer or a least invasive, minimally aversive trainer. I am just pro dogs being able to choose things and opt in and volunteer as much as possible. And I want them to be as happy and calm as possible. With separation anxiety, a lot of these dogs are not going to ever opt in to us leaving. So while I consider myself to be positive reinforcement and giving dogs opportunities to do start and stop buttons, in this particular case, I do encourage dogs to go up into their kind of antsy, unsure moments. I'm never going to push a dog beyond their anxiety point or panic point if I can help it. If it happens accidentally, that's a thing, that's a whoops. It's kind of like if I have a reactive dog and I'm trying to avoid triggers, but, life is unpredictable. A dog could come around the corner at any moment unexpectedly. Yes, I'm planning this, I'm intentionally working on this separation, but I am trying to do it in a way that is always fear-free. My dog is not getting to the point of being fearful. The whole point is that this is a systematic and very careful way to expose them to what they can handle, what they actually feel safe in, even if they're a little bit unsure, and then come back and they kind of learn how to relax in what they can handle, and then if they're relaxed in that amount of time, they can probably go for a little bit longer, and go for a little bit longer. So that's the process here, is I'm, over time, building an association of relaxation with alone time. So that is the process that you're going to be seeing me do. Please feel welcome to ask questions, get in touch. If you are concerned about this type of training or wonder why I would do this way and not use a million treats, I will talk about that in future episodes. But for now, just know that the idea of this, it is classically conditioning relaxation with alone time, which is incompatible with anxiety and stress. Thanks for joining me, you guys. I hope that you'll chime in next week. I am going to have done a whole week of practice, and we'll talk about what practice looks like and exactly how I write it, and that will be an ongoing project. So I'll see you guys down the line. Happy training.